Presentation skills, very important in business. Generally, people in business have to give a presentation at some point in their career. Often it's the only time people see them speak publicly, and it reflects in people's opinion about them. They might make judgments on how smart you are, how valuable an employee you are, right, based on how you present yourself. And that may be extremely vital. Suppose the business takes a downturn a year or two from now and they're looking to lay people off. It really, really helps if other people have seen you in action and they think highly of you. And you may be doing your job just fine, but it really helps if people say, oh, that person, yeah, I know that person. I've seen them, yeah, they look good. Let's keep them, not them. Don't lay them off. Or on a positive light, maybe it's for a promotion. So things to remember when presenting. Speak up and speak clearly. So sometimes the advice is pick somebody in the back of the room and talk to them. That way your head is up and your voice is projecting. And if you're really, really nervous, if you can, try to put somebody who you're not scared of, a colleague, somebody from your department, somebody like that, in the back of the room so you can look at them and you're not looking at all these high-powered people in front of them, and your nervous level, will be contained somewhat at that point. Show the audience members you feel comfortable with them. So sometimes we engage in informal patter. We talk about something else before we get started. We say something social to them. We compliment them on a nice tie or something like that. And it's just a way to sort of break the mood and start out with an informal, pleasant conversation. And when I teach negotiations class, we always talk about you always want to start out in a positive fashion, even if it's going to be a knockdown, drag out. Negotiations, you should start out with a positive tone. You should start out, find something you should agree on, and all of that. Channel nervousness into enthusiasm, right? Your energy level is going to be up, so that's how you want to show it. I'm excited to be here. I'm not scared to be here. And so you shouldn't try to look too mellow or too slow, or some people think they should slow their speech way down, and it looks like they don't have any energy. I mean, we can all do that, but I don't know that it works very well. I'd rather see somebody enthusiastic than I would, and bordering on nervous than I would just look like they don't want to be there. Move freely and naturally without pacing. Careful with your feet moving around. Sometimes people shift, they'll sway. Girls will play with their hair. Girls will play with their jewelry. I had a student with a rubbing necklace back and forth on the chain, right? And she did it on 2 prints, sorry. And there I am hitting the microphone, another danger. So she was really nervous. And then when it came time for her senior presentation, she was worried because I was one of the reviewers when I'd had her in class before, marking her down a little bit for playing with her jewelry. So she didn't wear any jewelry during her presentation, right? So she wasn't tempted to play with it. She told me after the fact. And quite frankly, it was an excellent presentation, even though she was nervous. Look at your audience. Again, head up. So is it okay to bring notes to read? Sort of would be my answer. I would have small notes. I would have flashcards, 3x5s if you need to. Some people will have a copy of their PowerPoint and then they'll write notes on that, things they want to say. That's okay too. What else might they do? Sorry, I think there was a little glitch there. They will do things like, here's my strong advice though. If you're going to have written notes, use phrases. Don't use full sentences, because if you get nervous, if you panic, what you're going to do is look down and start reading your words in a very boring monotone. That's what you don't want to do. That's death. So if you only write down phrases, then you really can't read it. You can just snatch pieces of information off there. You'll have the name of topics you want to talk about, and use that as your guide, and then you're filling in the rest of the sentences for yourself. I think that's a much better approach. I like that. So that's what I always tell my students when they want to give a presentation. If you need to bring notes to talk to, first of all, usually I use the PowerPoints as the notes. But if you need other things to reference, that's okay. But for gosh sakes, don't use them as sentences. Use them as phrases so that it's short and sweet. And that way you can't read it even if you wanted to. Even if you panic and want to read it, right? You should do it. So a couple other things to keep in mind. Watch the audience for signs, right? Are they with you? Or suppose you used a phrase or quoted something and you saw some faces like, what the heck? What is that? So then you stop and explain it. Oh, for those of you not sure what that is, don't say, I see you don't get it. That could be interpreted as a little bit insulting. So you just say, for those of you who who don't remember every bit of your statistics from years earlier, remember that a standard deviation is such and such or whatever. You quickly fill in the background. And for gosh sakes, don't use terms you don't understand. They will find out. I always torture my students for that. If I catch them using a term that I think they don't understand, I'll ask them right in front of everybody what it means, and if they don't know, they're really embarrassed. And I mean to embarrass them, because better they do it with me in class than they do it in front of their boss or their boss's boss when there's serious professional consequences. Look at them. Also pay attention to your audience for things like, are they bored? Are you going too fast? Are you going too slow? Are they making faces? Do they want you to just get it over with? Should you wrap it up quickly? Or are they really enthralled and they're asking questions? They want more details, right? Then you bring out your details. And then end with a bang. End with a summary. End with a conclusion, right? And hear this boom, boom, boom. A couple of the things, advice I would have. If you have a PowerPoint, do not, again, use phrases on the PowerPoints. Do not use full sentences. The only time you want to use full sentences are things like quotes. So if you're quoting a mission statement, you got to have the whole mission statement up. So you do that. I've seen upper level managers tell people presenting, hey, I can read, right? Do not stand there and read your PowerPoint to these people. They can read, and they can probably read really fast if it's a group of managers. So be careful about that. If you have lots of information, graphically present it, because it's very easy to decipher. Lots of times illustrations work really well on graphs. You shouldn't have too much. A lot of advice is for business graphs. Now for education graphs, we tend, for a class here, we tend to put more text on them because we're trying to transmit lots of detailed information like terminology. If it's a business class, I typically will tell students 3 to 5 bullets per PowerPoint and 7 to 9 words maximum per bullet. No long sentences, no killing them with too many PowerPoints. So for instance, this PowerPoint in front of you, I would break this in half. I'd also try to put some illustrations on there. Just remember, if you think, why do I need to put graphics, illustrations, something? If they're not looking at the PowerPoint, they're looking at you. So if you give something to look at on the PowerPoint, there's less time for them to analyze what you're wearing, what your hair looks like, are you going bald like me, or what's going on, right? So it helps to have illustrations on the graph, and it helps them remember things. So if the illustrations are related to the point you're making, right, they will most certainly liable to remember it better. Color is good. I don't really like a lot of animation, so graphs that make noises or things pop in from the side and all that tend to get very distracting. Sometimes people will use it on the very first one to get people's attention, and then nothing after that, and I think that's probably appropriate. And then at the end, right, again, don't just say, so yeah, as an end, right? I hate it when students do that. End with a bang. So as you can see, summarize it. We've talked about this was the issue, here's the key points, here's our conclusion. Any questions, right? Wind up like that. If you're not sure if you should include something like, here's some backup data, here's where I got this information from, or whatever, what my suggestion is, you have your presentation of slides, and then after the final slide you put some backup slides. So you put that information back there, and if you need it, you can just flip through it, and it's not a separate file you have to open up or anything. You just flip past your final slide and go to the backup slide, which is all in the same file, and you can quickly refer to it. So you have a few slides back there. I used to work with a person who used to say, he was a pretty good presenter, he'd say, I ask myself, what's the 3 most liable questions I'm going to get? Okay, and then I try to answer those questions. But maybe it's something I don't think it's appropriate taking the time of the whole group up. So when I answer it, the answer's on the backup slide. So if somebody does ask the question, boom, I pop to the backup slide. Well, let me tell you, when somebody asks you a question and you've got the answer on a backup slide and you can pull it up within 2 seconds, click, click, you're right there, you look pretty darn smart. You look efficient. You look effective, right? You look on top of the game. You knew the question might happen. You went to the trouble of making a very concise, well thought out answer, and boom, here it is in form of a graph in front of them, right? That's good stuff, right? You'll come out of that with people having a better opinion of you than they did before.